All right, Jesse on fire. So, developing story here. Shouldn't be a very long video, but Jorge Masvidal is involved in a developing story around a shooting that happened at his house yesterday, around 3 p.m. I'm going to show you guys the video that is out so I can let someone else kind of give you the details of the case. And then I'm going to illuminate some other facts around this thing, as in, well, conclusions, actually. Not so much the facts are here that I'll show you in a second, but some conclusions about what type of charges are, very likely to come down in this case, because it's his dad. Just spoiler, it's his dad. His dad shot a guy at his house. Not an intruder, so no luck there. There's no self-defense happening here. But there are details in this case that will, educate me in a way where I can probably tell you what he's going to be facing charges-wise. And so we'll go from there. Now, real quick, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I appreciate you guys doing that. Like the video, comment on the video, etc. All right, now let's just watch this really quick first, and then we'll talk about it.
According to a report from TMZ, a man was shot at Jorge Masvidal's Miami area home Thursday afternoon following a verbal altercation. The victim was transported to the hospital with at least one gunshot wound to the arm area. The news was first reported by Andy Slater, who shared the following information over Twitter. Jorge Masvidal's house in Miami has been swarmed by cops. The UFC star's father is in custody after allegedly shooting somebody at the fighter's house during an argument, a senior law enforcement source tells me. Jorge Masvidal was not at the house when the shooting happened. He was out promoting his bare-knuckle boxing event, which takes place Friday night at the FLA Live Arena. TMZ also reported, Miami-Dade PD tell us they received a call around 3 p.m. When they arrived, EMTs were already on the scene, rendering aid to an adult male who was shot in his upper extremities. Cops say the victim told them he was involved in an argument that escalated when the subject produced a firearm and shot him. We're told the victim was transported to a local hospital where he is now in stable condition. Daniel Cormier has reacted to John.
Let's stop right there. So yeah, that's the information that's out there. And listen, dude, bottom line, it's good. It's great that the guy's not dead. But this is a bad day for George. You know what I mean? It's his dad. His dad's locked up. And if I remember correctly from the documentaries, his dad was locked up during some of his childhood too. So, there are certain things where money doesn't really make anything any easier, or doesn't make a thing any easier. And your pop shooting a guy, and that's what you're waking up to today. Obviously he would have been dealing with it last night, but that's what you're waking up to today. It's oh, what was I going to do today? And now I'm going to go talk to lawyers. I'm going to stress out about how my dad's doing. I got to go down to the jail and talk to him. It's not, it sucks, man. That's a rough situation to have to deal with. The good news is, so it sounds like, the report is that he shot a guy in the middle of an argument. And the good news, as far as I can tell, is I think he's unlikely to face an attempted murder charge, or at the very least, I think the prosecutors, they'll probably threaten him with it. But in reality, that's going to be a very, very, very challenging charge to put on him, given that he shot the guy and it happened at the house, and then the police came and the guy's still alive. He got shot in the arm, right? Or wherever, got shot in the arm. The guy's fine. He's in stable condition, so it wasn't a serious enough wound to put him in critical or anything like that. And the guy's still alive, right? So if George's dad wanted to kill him, he could have, right? The guy's still there. They're both in the house. The police come. They arrest him. They take the guy to the hospital. If he wanted to knock him off, he could have. So attempted murder that's a tough charge to prove, because attempted murder means you were attempting to murder a person. And so if he shot him and then he didn't shoot him again, then he wasn't trying to murder him, right? You certainly could say that, if I was the prosecutor and I was going to argue it, I would say when he aimed the gun at him and pulled the trigger, even if he was mad, he did intend to kill him. Once he had shot him, he thought better of it and realized, what did I do? But nonetheless, when he pulled the trigger, he was attempting to kill him. He would need to basically argue that he wasn't intending to kill him. I think he's looking at assault with a deadly weapon, Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that much about how charging works, like in terms of, what type of charge he'll face. But I think attempted murder is going to be a tough one to prove. But yeah, I mean, dude, he shot a guy, and he's an ex-con. The likelihood that he doesn't go to jail is extraordinarily low. It is Florida though. Honestly, maybe he might even be able to get away with stand your ground, dude. Honestly, like now I just realized that now it's Florida. Like if a dude presses you, and the stand your ground law, you're allowed to shoot a dude. So I think, this is what I'm going to say now as I'm talking this through and thinking it through at the same time. If they're friends, which is likely, right? It's an argument. They're probably at least friends or connected through family or something because they're both at Masvidal's house, right? Like people don't get into your house if you don't have some kind of like relationship with them, right? So whether the dad has the relationship with the guy or George has a relationship with him and this is George's dad, I think it's likely that you'll get cooperation from the guy who got shot, in which case they could build a defense around the other guy being a violent threat at George's dad, and George's dad is, it stood his ground. I don't think that stand your ground laws cease to exist if you're inside of a residence. That wouldn't make any sense. So if it was me and I was going to be his defense attorney, that's how I would start thinking about my defense. Stand your ground law. And then you get in that fucking guy's ear. And dude, you're George, pay the guy. You know what I mean? Not that I'm recommending you do something illegal, but you pay the guy. You do what you need to do to get the guy to say what you need him to say to get your dad off on this case. He might actually just completely get off now that I'm thinking about it. Stand your ground, dude. God bless Florida, where you can shoot people and get away with it. Yeah. I guess the other question is going to be like, whose gun was it? Was it a legally owned firearm? Because there's the other thing. He said he produced a gun and fired it. Now, if it was George's gun and it's in the house, I don't really know. I don't think he would be looking at a charge if he fired a gun that was in the house of the owner and the owner owned the gun. But if he illegally owned a gun, that's a problem. But someone else could just claim that it was theirs, take that charge so that it doesn't get piled onto this other thing. And what's an illegal gun in Florida, Yeah. And then if I was a prosecutor and I was trying to press them on the prosecution side, I would definitely say attempted murder. It's easy to prove. Both of you guys admitted you were in an argument. You fired a gun at him and you hit him. Were you not intending to kill him when you shot him? He's like, no, I'm a marksman. I was aiming at his arm intentionally. Okay. Well, we'll see if a jury believes you. It's a bluff. The prosecution doesn't want to the prosecution does not want to go to trial with an attempted murder charge on an argument in a home where a guy shot a guy in the arm and then called an ambulance. You know what I mean? Like, how'd the cops get there? Right? Somebody called an ambulance and he didn't kill him. So, yeah, more than likely, stand your ground, dude. He might be able to get off on that. Honestly. Anybody who knows George, put that in his ear. Put that in George's ear. The stand your ground law. Because as much as these things seem like common sense once they're said out loud, I have learned, don't ever take for granted that anybody is thinking of an idea when it's a good idea. You know what I mean? Just put it in their ear, because that's a good idea, for sure. Don't even assume that like an attorney is going to come up with that. Don't assume that George is going to come up with that. Don't assume that his dad, like, seriously, if you know George, put that in his ear. Argue, stand your ground. Get the other guy, get the shooting victim, get him on the team, and get him, get his storyline to where, your dad firing the gun falls in line with the legal parameters around the stand your ground laws. Simple as that. Get the guy some money. Your dad shot him, Your dad fucking shot him. Pay him some money, To most people, 50 grand is a lot of dough. 50 grand's a lot of dough to a regular, a regular Joe. That'll probably get a person to do a lot, you know? So that is what I've got. You know, it was a little bit ironic only because when George was doing his embedded, you know, he was like, yeah, dog, look at, this is how we roll. This is how we roll in Miami. This is how we roll in Miami. Like this, dog. We got guns. He had like a submachine gun. I'm not laughing. This is not a funny situation at all, dude. I feel for George. Although I did just give him the way that his dad is going to beat this case, so I don't feel that bad. I feel as though I've contributed some value here. But if now I could just take for granted this is a serious situation and then kind of laugh about the fact that during the embedded, they're like, yeah, at all my houses, look, we're rolling strapped, dog. We're rolling strapped in all of our houses. And then fucking like 3 weeks later, his dad shot a guy in an argument. You're like, Jesus, man, lock those guns up, dude. Lock them up. Those guns were serious. I'll be really curious to see what kind of gun. I mean, that matters too, actually. All this stuff, like everybody forgets this, that like, you know, there's the law, and that's important, right? Here's what the law is. Here's the law. But the reality is, well, how's the case going to be decided? You know, how's the case going to be decided? Oh, well, a bunch of people that we pulled out of their job are going to sit in the box. They're going to listen to both sides, and they're going to make the decision. So it doesn't really have a lot to do with the law. Like, well, I mean, it does. They have to make a decision based on the law, but it comes down to them making a decision, right? Like they decide what fits into the parameters of the law that you lay out, right? So it's a human thing, not a law thing. Well, yeah, right. So you need to think that way, you know, think about how you can position it to a group of people. And as an example, the reason I brought that up is like, if he shot him with a submachine gun, that looks a lot worse, you know, like if he shot him with like a little Derringer, you know, he's like, and there's like some little puny ass gun. They're all, he didn't mean to kill him. He didn't mean to kill him. You're like, I mean, that shoots a 22 Magnum out of it. Have you ever seen what one of those things does? It's not like a 22 long rifle. Those things are a vicious little round. They're all, yeah, but look at that little gun. Look at that little fucking gun, dude. Who's going to get killed by that? Come on. Nobody's getting killed by that. And if it's a submachine, and it could be a 22 long rifle with an AR setup, right? And they'll be like, good God, what kind of savage would fire a gun like that at these people? You're like, okay, you know the little gun, the little puny one you said that looked like a little, like Bill Gates' shriveled up dick, you know that one? So that shoots a 22 Magnum, okay? That'll blow your head in half, okay? Okay? It's a serious round. Now, a 22 long rifle is the same size, could certainly kill you, but it's definitely a much less lethal round than the Magnum. They're all, yeah, but he shot it out of a big gun. It's a big gun. Okay, juror number 5. I'm glad that you're on the jury because I specifically wanted retards on there, you know. Anyway, you guys get the point. So I am, like right now, I am actually going to put some messages out there to try to get a message to George about this, just because I would imagine he's scrambling. And usually you wait for an attorney to tell you what your defense is, but I just told you what your defense is. And that is the correct answer. So anyway, I love you guys. Let's chat soon. What? I got to go get my haircut. Peace.